Morning. I've gotten up very early. Virginia Pastrell, it's about 12 minutes after 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and it's about 12 minutes after 6 a.m. in Denver, where Sally Sattel is. Virginia Pastrell, what about your health today? And you had laparoscopic surgery to take the kidney out, and what was that like compared to the old days when they would really have a very large wound on your body?
Yeah, it really makes a tremendous difference that they're able to do it laparoscopically in most cases, although not all today. And what that means is they go in with, a little filament where they are able to look into your body. And the scar, my biggest scar, is about this big. It's about 3 inches long. And then there are a couple of little sort of essentially holes where just tiny holes. Where they put in the various scopes. But for me, it was not that bad. It was a little stressful for my family members while they were waiting, because it is a long procedure. It takes 3 or 4 hours. But I didn't know. I was rolling down the hall, and the next thing I knew, I woke up and I was in bed and had an oxygen mask on, which they took off when I came to. And I was in the hospital for 3 days. I could have been out in 2, but they sort of let me stay for an extra day. And then within a week, I was able to travel back home to Dallas from Washington. And that was difficult because after surgery, and this is really about after surgery, it's not after giving a kidney specifically, you're very weak, you get tired easily. But I was traveling with my husband, and that was fine. And as Sally said, 19 days later, fortunately, I told her all my calendar things. I was able to drive 45 minutes to the University of North Texas, give a speech for an hour, and drive back. And that was sort of now I am normal. I'm perfectly fine now. I don't have any repercussions. What happens is your other kidney takes over, and I had my routine annual physical about a month after the surgery, and all my numbers and everything were normal. So I'm in very good shape.
Sally Sattel, this is a tough question to ask, but can I guess that both of you are in your 40s?
I'm actually 50.
But you're right.
I've said it there on national.
Yeah, there you go. It's over now. Did you come close in your own mind to death in this whole procedure?
No, I didn't. And in fact, during the procedure or during the illness?
During the illness.
Oh, no. In fact, I'm quite an outlier on the bell curve of people with renal disease. I didn't have the typical predisposing illnesses, which are hypertension and or diabetes. Over 2/3 of people with end-stage renal failure have those problems. Some people have lupus, which is a chronic autoimmune problem, or polycystic kidney disease. I was in that what's called idiopathic category. In other words, they don't know why my kidneys failed, and they obviously did it over a long period of time, because had my renal function been that deteriorated overnight, I would have been profoundly sick. So I was probably going for 20 years with deteriorating kidney function, didn't even know it, and as I said, was diagnosed, to my surprise, on a routine test. So I never even felt that sick, but a lot of people feel terribly sick, and they're on dialysis, which I have to say certainly is literally a life-saving safety net, and if I had to be on it, I sure well would have. But it can be an enormous impediment to freedom. You're there 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. You don't feel that good on it often. People are usually exhausted when they finish, and it would have been very disruptive to my life. I would have been dependent literally on a machine, and I wanted to avoid that at all costs. So I did. So I never came close to death. I never even felt that sick, but that is unusual, and there are many people who are on the list, and they're told by their doctors they are certainly not going to live out the amount of time it takes to get to the top, and so they are going on websites. Some of them are engaging in what's called transplant tourism, going to other countries to get an organ, which is risky, but something I actually thought of. And or putting ads in the paper, this kind of thing. This speaks to the, the desperation. Who would go to China to get an organ from an executed prisoner, an executed political prisoner? And this is well known. The BBC recently released a highly documented report on this. This is symptomatic, really, of a broken organ distribution system, and we can get into that. But your question you asked me was I near death? And the answer was no. There were little complications during the surgery, but again, I had an excellent surgeon. It was caught, and I was out in a week.
According to USA Today, and the article was in Wednesday of this week, and we have them to thank for publishing both Sally Sattel and Virginia Postrell's account of how this all happened. They say 68,351 people in this country are waiting for a kidney. Last question, and we've got callers waiting. Virginia Postrell, you say in your piece, excuse me, that your husband was reluctant. Can you explain a little more of that?
Well, if you say to your husband, who knew Sally, liked Sally, but didn't know her that well, and if you say to your husband, well, I'd like to undertake this surgery that's optional, and there is a risk to surgery. I mean, it involves general anesthesia. They cut you open. There's a risk of infection. There is a small risk. It's tiny, but there is a risk that you could even die. It's minuscule. We take, flying to Los Angeles from Dallas, I got more risk than that, or driving to the airport probably. But so, he loves me, so he was concerned. And actually, when I first started talking to Sally about doing it, she had this donor that she thought that she had found on MatchingDonors.com that she thought was going to do it, and I was the backup. And as my husband said, that having that backup period was a good sort of way of getting used to the idea. And then he was very supportive and has been very supportive through it all.
Virginia Postrell has a English literature degree from Princeton University, and Sally Sattel is a medical doctor degree from Brown University, and she has a master's from University of Chicago and a BS from Cornell. And let's go to the phones and hear what some of our callers might like to talk about. We go to Jackson, Wyoming, a Democrat. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I've been having this idea for the longest time, and I've been trying to get it across to how we can increase donations of organs. And you being a doctor, I'd like to know your opinion of it. Doctors and medical profession make money off the operations, and I'd just like to know if you increase the price by $2,000 of this organ transplant, and you give it to a family whose family member has died and willing to donate an organ to help pay for their funeral, don't you think that this would increase the amount of donations around this country?
Sally Sattel.